You are listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, where nurses, doctors, students, and other healthcare professionals bring you stories from scrubs across the nation. Tune in today with NSR's Derek J.
Hey, welcome to NSR, that's National Scrubs Radio. My name is Derek J, your host for today. And what I've learned from working in the healthcare arena, whether you're a doctor, nurse, speech pathologist, it doesn't even matter, that everyone has a story, and I want to hear yours. So in this week's episode, we have Heather, who's a nurse that's married to Shane Ritchie. If you don't recall, Shane Ritchie was on episode number 3 talking about his journey in healthcare and also his childhood illness called HSP. But now it's Heather's turn to tell her story. And before, recording with Heather, I was with a group of friends like, hey, man, you need to have some discussing medical stories that sometimes us healthcare professionals always experience. And Heather goes, I got one. I said, well, you need to get behind the mic. And she did. So when Heather got behind the mic, she discussed about her experiences working in West Virginia, Mississippi, California, and different travel assignments. Some of the experiences working in a rural hospital, where you don't have the same resources that you might have at a large hospital, and some cases that, that will stay with you forever. Here's Heather's story. So welcome to NSR. This is National Scrubs Radio. This is your host, Derek J. I have a lovely guest today, and she's blushing a little bit right now. Her name is Heather. Unfortunately, she's married to that guy named Shane Ritchie that I know, who was in episode 3. Not unfortunately. I love you, Shane. Just joking with you, buddy.
He's amazing.
Yeah, see, there you go. So, Heather, thank you for coming to the show today. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great right now. And I remember overhearing a gross nursing story, a medical story. I'm going to let you elaborate what happened, actually.
Okay, so my last contract in California here, one of my coworkers needed some help putting in a foley catheter, and
so now, was this like a large patient, or was
No, it was a little old grandma, confused, combative. So she was really struggling against, letting us open up her legs and put in this catheter.
Right.
And so it was just me and my other coworker, and Granny was fighting us, and
yeah.
So my coworker was in there, was trying to get the catheter in. Unfortunately, it did not go into the urethra, and it went into the vagina. And I was down there trying to help her, and when she pulled it back out, vagina juice went all up into my left eyeball, and it was so freaking disgusting.
Did you get conjunctivitis from that?
I did not. I went and rinsed it out, and I immediately just stepped back and was like,
See, I always
are you
thought
serious right now? And she just looked at me and she's like, no, please tell me that did not just happen.
See, I always thought the eye wash, at the sink was mainly for chemicals, medicines, but apparently it's
but also for bodily fluids.
Old granny vagina juice, right?
Yep, you got it. Although I just use a flush, a saline flush.
That's pretty smart. So right.
More convenient.
Right. Yeah.
You know how to use it.
Well, I mean, vagina juice, that always sucks,
Yeah.
So you're an ER nurse.
I am.
Yeah. So how do you have you worked in other units before besides the ER?
I have. When I first became a nurse, I worked in med-surg telemetry, and I've worked in progressive care, and I've done some ICU contracts.
Okay. So how do you like it? And I think I heard the dog barking in the background. How do you like it compared to the ER compared to the ICU or to the regular units?
Well, I feel like you're either an ICU nurse or you're an ER nurse. It's hard to have the personality to fit into both categories.
Right.
I definitely feel better being an ER nurse. I like the constant change, and that every day is different, and it keeps me on my toes, and I don't get complacent. Whereas with floor nursing, it's kind of the same routine every day. And sometimes you have the same patients, for several days in a row.
Right.
And for ICU, it's okay. I didn't mind it. It was okay. I felt like I learned a lot, and it was challenging too. But I just didn't feel like that was where I needed to be.
So how did you know, hey, I'm an ER nurse?
Just because I enjoyed going to work every day. I love what I do, and just gives me a sense of accomplishment.
Right. Well, compared to say the ICU or a med surg unit or a tele unit.
Oh gosh. Well, for med surg tele, I hated going to work. I would dread it, and I wouldn't want to go. And I just feel like that's not something you should want when you're taking care of people when they're at their worst. So
right. Right.
It's definitely not the place for
Well,
me.
the ER, I feel like the ER, you get to see things in the orifices before the patient arrives on the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. We've had some interesting things
Yeah, I mean,
shoved in different orifices.
Yeah, I'm sure. We always,
they never know how they get there either.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know. I just don't know how that
sure.
happened. Yeah. Yeah. So can you like describe another story that happened in the ER that was either just, crazy, gross, or something that just stuck out to you?
Yeah, well, in the ER, there's all kinds of disgusting stories, and most of them involve bodily fluids. And sometimes you get these little ladies and little men that come in that have been on narcotics forever, so they're all constipated and impacted. And
right,
you can do enemas and stool softeners and go lightly, stuff like that. And so it still gets stuck up in there.
You don't give let me tell you, you don't give a patient ER stool softener, right?
Right. Yeah.
I mean, they're past the stool softener.
Yeah.
So at what point do they come to you in the ER?
Well, usually when they're like doubled over in pain, and sometimes we have to just put on our gloves, put on a little KY, and go up there and get it out ourselves.
So they have a colon baby practically stuck up there.
Got to break that softball down into little
How do
pieces.
you break it down?
Well,
it looks like you need a beta block right now. You're blushing a little. Yeah, but so how do you break it down?
You just manually disimpact it. Just try to break off little pieces at a time and take them out one little piece at a time.
So you're just like etching it out, just chipping away at a wall.
It's my artwork, my masterpiece.
Miss Picasso over here.
Got it.
Taking out colon babies. Yeah. Yeah. So how did you get into healthcare? Like, what was the story that led you into becoming a traveler, which you're a traveler right now?
Yeah.
So what led you to here?
Well, growing up, my mom was a nurse, and I always saw like her working 12-hour days and always missing holidays, birthdays. She'd always make it up to us. We'd celebrate on different days, but I was pretty adamant that that was not the life for me. And
right.
Went to school for some different things before I even settled on nursing. And when I met my husband, Shane, the talker,
right,
he had mentioned travel nursing to me, and I had never even really heard of it. And once he explained it to me in the process, I was hooked. Applied to nursing school like within a couple of months, and the rest is history. I've been pretty much traveling since I got my experience.
Nice. So how did Shane, your husband, convince you to do travel nursing?
He pretty much just said, he explained the process, that it's about 13 weeks.
13-week contracts, right?
Contracts, yeah. Hire up with different agencies, find a place you want to go, and then you can, vacation 4 days a week and work 3 days a week. So
right. But I mean, like, was this when you were living in West Virginia that he convinced you, or Kentucky?
Kentucky.
Yeah. Okay. So then, like, from Kentucky, like, what was the first destination that you were thinking, I can do travel nursing? Where did you end up going first?
So my very first contract was about 45 minutes from home. I finished nursing school before Shane.
Got it.
And so I had like my experience before he did. And so I wanted to test the waters and not have to go too far. So I went to a place in Bridgeport, West Virginia, and worked there.
So you really just stayed local practically for your first travel assignment.
For the first couple actually.
And then how did you, when you got like more comfortable, I guess, or more confident, or whatever you want to call it, where did you go next as far as travel nursing?
So after Shane got his experience, because I did a few contracts just around West Virginia until he got his, and then this was when I was a telemetry nurse, and then I went back as like a staff nurse, got my ER experience, stayed there for a couple of years, and then we went out traveling together. Shane had his experience at that time. Our very first job was in Clarksdale, Mississippi.
Oh my gosh.
I know. In the Delta.
So you went from like a place that kind of goes back in time a little bit, West Virginia or Kentucky, to another place that's kind of like back in time a little bit.
Yeah, super rural.
Yeah, I feel like Mississippi is a little bit of a time machine, So describe working in rural like hospitals, because I'm used to big city. I don't know how it would be at a small community hospital.
Okay, so in West Virginia, our hospital was like the only hospital for like several counties. So we'd get impacted a lot, especially during flu season. You have all your pneumonias, your flus, your respiratory issues, and we'd have like ambulances lining up the hallways with their gurneys, and all of our beds full, and the hospital would be full. And anytime you have any sort of like stroke or MI or any sort of trauma, everything had to be flown out to WVU.
Wow.
And our weather is crappy there. They have to cross the mountain. It's usually foggy, or
Right.
it's the winter, lots of snow.
So your trauma centers, your stroke centers, whatever, are kind of like, there's only a few places that have it. So
Yeah.
people have, like, if they're really out there, they have to be flown in.
Right. Exactly.
Wow. What
And
other?
we don't-
Yeah,
Right.
I'm sorry. No, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I mean, we just don't have the resources, like other hospitals do. We don't have like certain types of doctors on call, so that's,
Right.
kind of hinders us a little bit. And, we only have one CT machine. So if you get like two the same time you need to do, it's, pretty challenging.
At this time, did you have telemedicine or like,
No.
stroke neurologist?
Nope.
No,
Nothing like
yet.
that.
So describe Mississippi for you. Like how is that different compared to working in West Virginia and Kentucky?
Well, Mississippi was just a little, what's the word I should use here? It was a little scarier, I guess, to me. They had like a lot of like gang violence, stuff like that. That wasn't really something I was familiar with.
Okay.
The hospital had a sheriff's department stationed right in the very front of the ER entrance. So
Okay,
you
all
always
right.
know it's going to be,
Right.
kind of fun. We would get like lots of like these little gangbangers like coming in with like gunshot wounds, like nothing
Okay.
major. Everything major was pretty much flown to Memphis, but we had like the ones shot in the booty, stuff like that, or shot in the foot.
So demographics were totally different.
Yeah. One of my the ED techs there, Mario. Shout out to Mario.
Hey, Mario.
He asked me one day, we were in the room, and he's like, "Heather, are you racist?" I said, "Mario, do you really think I'd come to a place that's 85% black people if I was a racist person?"
Right.
He's like, "No, I guess not." He said, "Your husband, he's upstairs." He said, "I know he's not racist." I said, "Well, how do you know that?" He said, "Well, I took a patient up to him earlier, and he's like, 'Hey, my brother,' like I'm his brother."
And that kind of just like broke the ice a little bit,
it
right?
did. It was fine. It was a really great experience. I loved it and
Right.
loved the people.
That's cool because I feel like when you're working at the hospital, things like race, like a lot of like issues that might be
Yeah.
outside the hospital, you're working as a team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you're taking care of patients, you're
Yeah.
making everybody still breathing.
You're all one.
You're all one.
Yep.
That's awesome. So after your stint in Mississippi, where did obviously you're in California. That's where we're recording today. How did you end up in California? Was that the next assignment?
Next assignment was actually New Jersey. And
Oh, wow.
yeah, we were like right across the bridge from Manhattan. We didn't have to work weekends. So, every weekend Shane and I were going into the city, seeing a new show, hanging out. And so it was like
Totally different than
really,
Mississippi.
yeah. Oh yeah. It was a really awesome experience. It was Hackensack Hospital. It was like one of the top hospitals in the country. So it was really nice to work there.
Right. And was this your first experience like at a, in the city at a really high-end
Yeah,
hospital?
it was. Yeah. And
Yeah.
it was, it was nice. You had all these resources and,
Totally different, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Had like an actual rapid response team if you needed it,
So you didn't have a rapid at the other places?
Some places didn't know.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were like the person that was responsible. Like
Yeah.
you didn't have that support where I could just call a resource.
Right. Yeah. You don't have those in the rural hospitals so
That's
much.
a little nerve-wracking.
It is. Yeah. Puts a lot of pressure on you.
It puts a lot of pressure on
Yeah.
you.
But when you don't know any better, that's all you know. Then
Right. You do the
kinda
best you
what you-
can. Right. And then you came to California.
yeah, after New Jersey, went to California, started off in Richmond, and then went up to Folsom.
So did you have any like crazy ER stories in California that were different than back, home, West Virginia and Kentucky?
Well, in California, some of the laws are different. Lots
Okay.
of
What laws?
the marijuana laws.
Okay.
for one.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right.
So I had this one guy come in, and the family called 911, said that he was altered, not
Okay.
acting himself. He was confused.
Right.
Normally alert and oriented, fine guy,
Right.
whatever. So they bring him in, and
It's a lot of the population in certain parts of California.
Yeah. And so we call, code stroke alert, whatever, go straight to CT. He comes back and he's like, muttering, he's like, "Where are my teeth? I can't find my teeth." And we're like, "They're in your mouth." And he's like, "Oh, okay." And so we get him in, do the stroke alert, everything, turns out okay. And then the
Right.
patient's son comes and he's like, "Dad, did you get into his son's brownies that were at his house?" And he was
That's
like,
hilarious.
"Yeah, I had some brownies." And he's
Right.
like, "Dad, I told you can't have the brownies when you go to your grandson's house." So we did, pulled all our resources for a stroke alert for a grandpappy that was high.
Did you even do a urine drug screen after that? Or is it just like,
Well, I mean, I'm not sure if I don't remember
Yeah.
the details of
Yeah,
that particular case.
That's
but
hilarious, like thinking that someone Well, I mean,
It was
it's
funny.
better for it to be marijuana.
Exactly. That's why I'm like, it's better than a stroke for sure.
And nothing like that back home.
Well, I mean, you get the kids that come in high on spice and their heart rates are really high.
So spice,
bath
so
salts.
spice is the drug of choice back home.
Well, methamphetamines are the drug of choice. Probably
okay.
It's easier for them to manufacture
Right.
at home, and
So it's almost
a
like
lot
Breaking
of
Bad over there.
prescription.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, but so methamphetamines is the drug of choice
Yeah,
in those areas. And
generally.
how would you treat that? Like, because I've never seen an OD or someone that's really high on uppers like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much just a lot of times their heart rate's like super high, so you just got to try to control the heart rate, and sometimes they get pretty combative, and you have to like kind of tie them down.
Yeah, they're like superhuman.
Yeah, in fact, we had assault on healthcare workers is now starting to become a felony
Right.
in most states. I don't know if it's federally yet, but
It should be.
it should.
I think it should be.
It definitely should be.
Right.
And so we had a situation at the hospital the other night where this guy came in. He just came in for abdominal pain. It wasn't even like a psych issue. It wasn't like a 5150 from the PD. It was just, abdominal pain.
Right.
And the lab tech was in there trying to draw his blood. And I went in to try to do the EKG, and he's like, "Yo, girl, get out of here." I
Right.
was like, okay. So I went out. He wasn't comfortable. And next thing I know, like the lab tech's coming out with his hands up in the air, and he was like, no, don't hit me. Don't hit me.
Right.
And so then our charge nurse goes over to try to get him, and security's there because they were sitting with our psych patients, and the patient actually swung and hit our charge nurse in the neck, and he
That's
broke
insane.
the lab tech's finger.
Oh my gosh.
So we had this awesome nurse, Richard, who's from.
Well, you're in the perfect place to get your finger broken and have an injury at least, but
Yeah, and so like we had another nurse that went and tackled the patient because there was no way to get him under control. He was just like, and he ended up being like high on amphetamines, I think.
Have you seen that Flocka stuff?
I haven't seen it firsthand, no.
But have you heard of it?
I have heard of it, yeah.
I'm originally from Florida.
Oh, it's really bad
Everything
there,
crazy happens
the
in Florida.
crocodile and stuff like that. Is that what it's called?
I don't know about that, but
crocodile.
I just know it's like in the, I heard it's in the Miami area as well.
Yeah.
And you talking about like Walking Dead?
Yeah.
That's what exactly they look like. That's some scary stuff.
It is scary.
So it's just funny to see, like you were talking about Mississippi, California, other places, how demographics, different patients, marijuana. I'd rather be having a fake stroke than trying to bite people's faces off and injuring people. Yeah. So what's the next step for you now?
Well, I mean, next step's going to be, I'm going to take the summer off, go back home to West Virginia, just kind of chill a little bit, relax, enjoy some time with my family. And Shane's sister, her school bus just crashed, and she was in a pretty bad accident, broke her pelvis.
My gosh.
Yeah. So we're going to go back and, help her with her rehab. It's her senior year. So she's got graduation, and, we had all these plans. We're going to go to New York, stuff like that, but she's not going to be able to walk for a little while. So
wow, I had no idea.
It out. Yeah, it just happened like 2 days ago. We got a call from her mom, and school bus driver went over an embankment. And,
yeah. Well, my thoughts are with you and the family and
she's
stuff.
Good.
She's doing okay now.
Yeah, she's gonna have to have like some outpatient or inpatient rehab actually for like 10-15 days.
Okay.
So a little bummed she's not gonna be able to walk for graduation and go to prom.
Right.
She's had all the got her dress and everything, but
had all of the expectations of these things that you build up, and now they're not there. Yeah, it's funny how that happens because not really funny, but I mean like you see patients in the hospital who have these life events where it's like, oh, I expected this, and then they're paraplegic.
Yeah.
Or and I wonder how they cope with that kind of stuff. But,
it's hard. I'm sure.
How do take away from the patient side, how do you cope being an ER nurse, because you guys deal with a lot?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, when I have like a trauma or code blue or something, I just have to. And this might sound bad, but I have to not think of them as a person right away.
So it's like disassociation.
Yeah, I have to like just think of it as a task, and the task is saving the life, and I can't think about that this is an actual person with an actual family. You know what I mean? Because then it just gets too personal and emotional, and so then like after everything's said or done, you just kind of sit back and reflect, and it's either a good result or a bad result.
So I understand in the moment. Because adrenaline's rushing,
you
become tunnel vision. Because
exactly.
It's just like nothing in your peripheral vision or in the outside matters. How do you cope with it after the event? Like 2 weeks down the road or a month down the road?
Well, most hospitals are pretty good. Like if you have like those really bad situations, and they'll provide you with counseling. I mean, thankfully, I haven't really had to experience that too much. Actually, one of the worst things I've ever seen was...
So at this point of the interview, Heather starts describing one of the most toughest cases that she's dealt with as a nurse. So after we finished the episode, we stayed connected over the phone for a while, and we discussed about this case, and she was like, I'm just not really comfortable airing this, and I completely respect that choice. First, it can come from a community that some people could be identified, but two, that's what NSR is about. I want people to come on the air to describe who they are as a nurse, in and outside the scrubs, and I appreciate Heather for coming on the show. Here's the rest of the interview.
It was probably one of my roughest days as a nurse.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, we all have those stories, I feel like. Because, you just shared that. I would never know that you've witnessed that, right? Mm-hmm. And I've witnessed a lot of stuff that's such heartbreaking. Yeah. I mean, honestly, it could break a family. It can break a generation. I mean, and I always wonder how, nurses cope.
Yeah.
Sometimes, with those heavy,
Yeah. For me, I mean, mostly, I'm a Christian, so I lean a lot on God and prayer and stuff like that. So that just,
that's your resource. Yeah. I feel like everyone has their, whether it's,
religion, drinking, whatever.
Right. Yeah. It could be good, bad,
but,
work hard, play hard too, which I find that to be okay. As long as you're, within reason, you know what I mean? Like within certain boundaries.
Actually.
But, so Heather.
Yes.
As you get nervous. Thank you for coming to the podcast. I appreciate it. I really didn't think that I thought there was a 5% chance that you would actually do this podcast today.
Really?
Yeah. But I'm glad that you came out. I was like, man, maybe should we, take a beta blocker? I don't know, or something just to kind of relax. But
I'm glad that I exceeded your
5%
awesome expectations.
I'm giving you a hard time, but it was a lot of work up before it. But it was great. So I appreciate you sharing, your life within travel nursing in general, and Shane. And you're welcome anytime. Good luck with your travels across the country, because you're going back to the East Coast.
Yep.
Thank you, Heather, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for listening to NSR, National Scrubs Radio, with your host, Derek J. For more great content and to stay up to date, visit Facebook and Twitter @NatScrubsRadio. We'll catch you next time.